Now in this video, the four corollaries to lemma 4.2.17 are proved. What is lemma 4.2.17? This we have already proved. If V1 etc. Vn is a basis of V over F, and if W1 etc. Wm in V are linearly independent, then the relation between this M and N is M is less than or equal to N. So we said already that there are four corollaries to this lemma. So we'll see one by one. The first corollary states that any two bases of a finite dimensional vector space V have the same number of elements. You cannot have the given finite dimensional vector space of dimension say 10. You cannot have that V having 8 number of elements as its basis, and another basis consisting of say 9 number of elements, another basis consisting of 10 number of elements. So what this one says is, this corollary says is, any two bases, any basis you consider in a finite dimensional vector space of say dimension n, then it will have exactly n elements only. So that is the meaning of the statement. Now since V is finite dimensional, it has a basis say, that is we are assuming dimension of V to be n. Now suppose we have another basis consisting of m number of elements, say W1, W2 and so on Wm. Then we have to show that this m equals n. So two bases for the same finite dimensional vector space with elements n and m number of elements we have considered. We have to show that m equals n. Now L of S equals V, and S prime is a set of m linearly independent vectors. See, we have this one and this one to be basis only. But in the first case, we are going to take this as a basis and this as a set of linearly independent vectors. So by that lemma 17, we know the relation between this m and n, that is m is less than or equal to n. Now we will interchange the roles of these two. That is, now we will have this to be a basis and this to be linearly independent. So which means n should be less than or equal to m. So clubbing these two, we have m to be equal to n. So that's corollary 1. Any two bases of a finite dimensional vector space V have the same number of elements. Now before we go to corollary 2, we need to prove this result, which states that if T is an isomorphism of V onto W, then T maps a basis of V onto a basis of W. So whenever V is isomorphic to W, so we are given T to be an isomorphism of V onto W, which means that V is isomorphic to W. So that means we can find a mapping between T, V and W, which will take a basis of the domain to basis of the codomain. Now how to prove this? So we shall take V and W to be finite dimensional vector space and T to be a mapping from V to W, which is an isomorphism of V onto W. It's one-to-one onto homomorphism. Now we will consider a basis of the domain to be say V1, V2 and so on Vn, and we will prove that the images, the image of V1 under T, image of V2 under T and so on, image of Vn under T. So this collection, if we name it as B, we are going to show that this B is a basis of W. That is, B is the basis of the codomain. So to prove that, we have to show that B is linearly independent in W and B spans W over F. So first we will establish that B is linearly independent in W. So for that, we know that B is the image of V1 under T and so on up to Vn under T. So we'll have to consider the linear combination equated to the 0 element of the codomain, that is 0 only. So we have this step, and because T is a homomorphism, it takes identity element to identity element. So the 0 can be replaced by the image of 0 under T, and here the left side becomes the image of the entire expression under T. And because T is 1-to-1, we have this step. The pre-images, images equal will imply pre-images equal. So that's for T to be 1-to-1, we have that. So because V1 etc. Vn are linearly independent, each scalar should be 0. Therefore B is linearly independent over F, and that proves the first subdivision. Next we will prove that B spans W. So for which we'll have to consider an element, say W in capital W, and write that W as a linear combination of elements of capital B. So as T is on to, there exists one V in V such that the image of V under T is W. Now this W is now rewritten as, because V is a member of capital V, which has got V1 and so on, Vn as a basis, we have to have this V to be alpha 1 V1 plus and so on alpha n Vn, the image of all this, and I mean this expression and T. Now because T is a homomorphism, we have this step, and this is nothing but a linear combination of elements of B, because the elements of B are V1T, V2T and so on Vnt. So we get W to be a linear combination of elements of B, which states that, or rather which implies that B spans W. That proves the second subdivision. So that is the end of the result, that whenever V is isomorphic to W, a basis of V will be taken to a basis of W. So we will make use of that result to establish this corollary, which states that the collection of all ordered n tuples which forms a vector space under component wise addition and scalar multiplication, so that f superfix n isomorphic to f superfix m if and only if n equals m. So first we will assume that n to be equal to m, then obviously this f superfix n is isomorphic to f superfix m, because identity mapping will serve the purpose. So we have this one to be very obvious. And for the converse part, we shall assume that Fn, that is the f superfix n, isomorphic to f superfix m. Now there exists an isomorphism of f superfix n onto f superfix m. Right. Now since dimension of V is n, any basis will have n number of elements, and by the above result, this basis should be taken to a basis of this Fm. But any basis in this has m number of elements, so you cannot have the image having some number as the number of basis elements, and here some other to be basis. That is the number of elements here you cannot have to be different. So there already from that result we know that n number of elements will be a basis of this f superfix m, but already we know that any basis will have m number of elements here. So naturally our m should be equal to n, or rather n equals m. So that proves the converse part. Now corollary 3. This corollary is an important one, for the reason that whatever V that you consider whose dimension is n, so that will be isomorphic to f superfix n, that is the collection of all ordered n tuples. You consider any vector space V which is of dimension say 3, then that will be isomorphic to f superfix 3, collection of all ordered triplets with entries from capital F. So this is an advantage because whenever we consider, say if we are doing section 6.3, there we want to consider matrix over a matrix of a linear transformation defined on a vector space V, then given a matrix we can find the reverse part. Given the matrix we can find the basis, which will be a standard basis, and the corresponding transformation. So given transformation matrix, and then given matrix transformation. So from matrix to transformation if you want to go, then we need to have one a finite dimensional vector space. So what could be, see if I know the order of the matrix, so suppose it is 4 cross 4 say, then we'll have to talk about vector space which is of dimension 4. But what is to choose there? So for that reason, this one, this corollary will be used there. That is, you can have, because V is isomorphic, suppose I have V to be of dimension 4 say, then I can choose that instead of V, F power 4, that is F superfix 4. So that will be collection of all ordered 4 tuples. So it is there that this corollary will be very useful. So, but the proof is also very simple. So if you consider dimension of V to be say n and V1 etc. Vn to be a basis of V, then any V in capital V can be uniquely written as like this. So when we define a mapping T from V to collection of all ordered n tuples F bar n, the image of V under T is written in this way. We know already that V is associated with alpha i's in this way. So you have the image of this being written in this way, that is justified. Now anyhow we will be proving that this result, this rule is well defined. So to prove that T is well defined as well as one-to-one, you'll have to retrace the steps. So first we'll assume that V to be equal to V prime. So this V can be written as alpha 1 V1 plus and so on alpha n Vn, and V prime is written as beta 1 V1 and so on, say beta n Vn. Now we will bring everything together to one side, collecting the terms containing V1, V2 and so on, and this is what we have. But V1 etc. Vn are linearly independent because they form a basis already. So you have the the scalars to be 0. So beta 1 minus alpha 1 0 and so on this. So that shows that beta i's are equal to alpha i's. So when we consider alpha 1, the ordered n tuple, alpha 1 and so on alpha n, that will be equal to the n tuple beta 1 and so on beta n. But this is nothing but the image of V and T, and this is nothing but the image of V prime and T. So by just retracing the steps, we can have T to be 1-to-1. We'll assume the images to be equal and prove that the pre-images are equal. Just retracing the steps, we will have our T to be 1-to-1. You assume this images are equal, which means the ordered n tuples are equal, which means we can equate the like components. So we have this step, and once I consider V, once I consider these steps need not be considered. Once I consider V, which is equal to this, replacing alphas by betas, you get this, and that is nothing but your V prime. So that is how we conclude that our T is 1-to-1 by just retracing the steps. And it's so obvious that your T is onto. Whatever here I have, the elements, that is already present on the right side. So any element here as well as on the right side of this expression, or rather this equation, we have to be the same, and therefore our T is obviously onto. Now we will prove that T is a homomorphism. So that means the image of V plus and V prime and T should be equal to the image of V under T plus image of V prime under T, and the image of alpha V under T is alpha into image of V under T. So we will consider V to be a member of capital V, which means we can write V in this way and similarly V prime in this way, and collect the terms containing V1, V2 and so on Vn. Now the job of T is to take this element to ordered n tuple like this, and that is rewritten in this way by the definition of addition in this F suffix n. So this is nothing but the image of V under T, and the next one is the image of V prime under T. So that gives the right hand side. So this proves the first subdivision, and in the same way, if we consider this, replacing our V by this expression, we have by multiplying this the rule alpha into U plus V is alpha U plus alpha V. So that V1 and V is used. So we have this step, and the job of T is to take any such element to this ordered n tuple, and from this obviously alpha is common, so taking that out, this is what we get, and this is nothing but the image of V under T. This alpha is retained as such. So that is our RHS, and therefore T is a homomorphism. So we have already proved that T is 1-to-1. T is obviously onto. Now that T is a homomorphism. Therefore, by the definition of two vector spaces to be isomorphic, we conclude that V is isomorphic to this collection of all ordered n tuples whenever V is of dimension n. Now the last corollary, any two finite dimensional vector spaces for F of the same dimension are isomorphic. So it is, this corollary can be easily proved with the help of the third corollary. So if we have V and W to be two finite dimensional vector spaces of dimension say n, then V is isomorphic to collection of ordered n tuples, and W is also isomorphic to the same Fn, but isomorphic to is an equivalence relation, and so by symmetry we can have Fn isomorphic to W. So we will club these two. By transitivity we will have this V to be isomorphic to W, and that is what we need to prove. So in the next video we will prove that given a set of linearly independent vectors, they can be blown up to a basis. We know very well that from a set of vectors spanning, a basis can be extracted. Now when can we extend it to a basis? So if they are linearly independent, they can be extended to a basis. So that is what is established in the next video.